My parents skipped my graduation to help my golden child sister move, so I cut them off now. They're desperate for my help. Hey everyone, before we begin the story, take a moment to support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support means the world to our channel and helps us spread more shocking, true stories to light. Now let's get started. Alright, now let's get into it. Have you ever felt like an extra in your own life? Like you're just there, watching from the sidelines while everyone else is the main character? That's been my reality for as long as I can remember. I'm Ryan, 22, and in my family, I've always been the afterthought, the background character, the one who fades into the scenery while my younger sister, Jenna, shines under the spotlight. And don't get me wrong, this isn't just about occasional favoritism. It's not about a few missed moments or a couple of forgotten birthdays. No, my parents made it painfully clear again and again that Jenna was their priority. Always. I should have known from a young age that I didn't matter as much. I still remember the day I won a district-wide math competition when I was 10. I was so excited, I ran home with my medal in my hands, ready to show them. I thought, maybe this time they'll be proud of me. But when I walked in, they didn't even notice me. Mom was too busy perfecting Jenna's dance recital outfit. And Dad? He barely glanced at my medal before muttering, "That's nice," and going right back to helping her. I just stood there, holding my medal, waiting for something that never came. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the award that once made me feel proud, wondering why I even bothered. And that was just one of many moments like that. By the time I was 14, I decided to test them. I had a big school presentation coming up, and I deliberately didn't tell them, just to see if they'd even ask. They didn't. Meanwhile, Jenna came home that same week with some dumb history poster project, and my mom literally stayed up until 2 a.m. helping her glue pictures to it. It was a pattern, a never-ending cycle of me being overlooked and her being worshipped. I used to vent to my girlfriend, let's call her Megan, about it, but she never really got it. "It's not that bad," she'd say. "Your parents just love Jenna a lot. She's the youngest, of course they dote on her." Like I was just imagining things. Like it was normal to feel invisible in your own family. Disappointment became my normal. By the time I turned 16, I had already stopped expecting much from my parents. But there were still moments where I let myself hope. Stupid hope. Like when my dad promised to teach me how to drive. For months, he talked about it like it was some sacred father-son tradition. He'd tell me stories about how his dad taught him, how it was going to be our thing. I actually believed him. But then, Jenna needed help with some science project, and just like that, Dad suddenly had no time for driving lessons. So guess who ended up teaching me? Not my dad. Not my mom. It was my Uncle Rick, my dad's older brother, the only person in my family who ever seemed to notice what was happening. Dad didn't even care that someone else had to step in. No apology, no guilt, just another forgotten promise added to the pile. And if that wasn't bad enough, let's talk about my high school graduation. You know, one of those big, proud parent moments? Except mine didn't show up on time. While everyone else had their families cheering in the crowd, my parents were nowhere to be seen. I already had my diploma in my hands, standing on the stage for group photos, when I finally spotted them sneaking in through the back. No photos, no cheers, just my dad whispering, "Jenna's game ran long." Like a high school volleyball match was more important than my graduation. And when my college acceptance letter arrived, the same day, Jenna got asked to prom by some football player. Guess which one got celebrated with a special dinner? I tried talking to them about it once. I was 19, and I finally worked up the nerve to ask them why I was always the afterthought. Big mistake. Mom got defensive immediately. "That's not true, Ryan. We love you just as much as Jenna. But family supports each other." Dad? He just sat there nodding along like a damn bobblehead. Message received. Jenna's needs would always come first. Always. The one person who understood me. Uncle Rick was the only one who saw what was happening. At family gatherings, he'd pull me aside and say, "I see what's going on, kid. It's not right." He never tried to sugarcoat things. Never made excuses for my parents the way everyone else did. And you know what happens when you grow up knowing you're not the favorite? You stop expecting anything. You train yourself not to hope. Because the only thing worse than being ignored is letting yourself believe, just for a second, that this time will be different. That they will be different. And that brings us to my college graduation. The day I finally learned my lesson for good. The final disappointment, my college graduation. I don't know why I thought this time would be different. Maybe because college graduation isn't just some small milestone. It's a once-in-a-lifetime achievement. For years of busting my ass, pulling all-nighters, working part-time jobs to support myself, all leading up to this one day. I want to believe my parents would finally show up for me. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I reminded them, graduation's on the 15th at 10 a.m. If you guys still plan on coming. Mom barely looked up from her phone. We wouldn't miss it, honey. I should have known better. The day before graduation, I sent a message to the family group chat. Ceremony starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Parking gets crazy, so maybe try to arrive by 9:30. No response. Not unusual for them, so I didn't think much of it. Graduation morning came, and I was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my cap and gown. I felt nervous, excited. I checked my phone. No texts, no calls. But I wasn't panicking yet. Maybe they were just on their way. Maybe they'd surprise me. My girlfriend, Megan, was supposed to meet me at 8:30 so we could go together. But by 9 o'clock, she still hadn't shown up. I called her. She answered, but something was off. I could hear laughter in the background. People talking. Hey, where are you? We need to go. She hesitated. Oh, something came up. I'm at Jenna's new place. What? I sat down, rubbing my temples, already knowing where this was going. You're kidding, right? Your mom asked me to help her move. I thought you knew. I froze. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. No guilt. No surprise. Just mild annoyance, like I was being unreasonable for even questioning it. Like it was normal for her to be at Jenna's new apartment, instead of at my graduation. And that's when it clicked. She had always been fine with this dynamic. Always fine with Jenna coming first. Always fine with my parents treating me like an afterthought. And for the first time, I realized even my own girlfriend wasn't really on my side. So none of you are coming to my graduation? I asked, my voice strangely calm. She sighed. Your parents said they might try to make it for the end. Like that somehow made it better. Might try. Like my graduation was a dentist appointment they were squeezing in. I let out a dry laugh. Nah, tell them not to bother. They wouldn't want to miss Jenna's housewarming party. Megan started saying something, but I hung up and just sat there. For years of hard work, for years of struggling, pushing myself, believing that maybe, just maybe, this day would be different. And the people who were supposed to care about me didn't even show up. Not even Megan. I almost took off my gown. Almost skipped the whole thing. But then my phone rang. Uncle Rick. Hey kiddo, I'm outside your building. Ready to go celebrate that diploma? The only one who showed up for me. If Uncle Rick hadn't called me at that exact moment, I probably wouldn't have gone. I was sitting on my bed, still in my cap and gown, staring at my phone in disbelief. For years of hard work. And the people who were supposed to care about me couldn't even bother to show up. But there he was. The only person who ever seemed to give a damn about me. Yeah, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm ready. When I got in his car, he took one look at my face and knew. Let me guess, he said, shaking his head. They're not coming. I barely nodded. They're helping Jenna move into her new apartment. Megan's there too. Uncle Rick let out a low curse under his breath. Those selfish, he stopped himself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Sorry, Ryan. You deserve better than that. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak. The entire drive to the ceremony, I kept scanning my messages, still holding on to that last pathetic sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd show up at the last minute. But when I stepped onto that stage and looked out at the crowd, all I saw were other people's parents. Other moms crying happy tears. Other dads clapping their sons on the back. My parents? Nowhere. It wasn't that they forgot. They chose not to come. And that realization settled into my bones like ice. The only person cheering for me in the crowd was my uncle, who technically wasn't even obligated to care. After the ceremony, he took me to this insanely fancy steakhouse, the kind of place where they don't even put prices on the menu. When I walked in, still wearing my graduation gown, the staff actually applauded. It was embarrassing, but for the first time that day, I felt seen. Uncle Rick didn't hold back. He ordered the fanciest thing on the menu and told me to do the same. The waiter didn't even ask for my ID when I ordered a drink. I guess the cap and gown were proof enough that I was officially an adult. "I'm proud of you, kid," Uncle Rick said, raising his glass. "Computer science isn't easy, and you crushed it. You're going places, whether they see it or not." I don't think he realized how much those words meant to me. All day, I had been drowning in disappointment. But hearing him say that, it hit me harder than I expected. For once, someone actually saw what I had accomplished. Someone actually cared. Halfway through dinner, my phone started buzzing like crazy. For a second, I thought, maybe an apology? Maybe they realized how badly they screwed up? Nope. It was Megan. "Where are you? Are you coming to Jenna's party after?" A message from my mom. "Sorry we couldn't make it, sweetie, but Jenna's apartment is so nice. You'll love it." And my dad, "Let's do dinner next weekend to celebrate you." Next weekend. Because, they wouldn't want to interrupt Jenna's big day with something as minor as my college graduation. I put my phone face down on the table. Uncle Rick noticed my expression. "Let me guess," he said, cutting into his steak. "They're at a party." I just nodded. He chewed for a second, then shook his head. F*****, eat your steak. Asterisk. And that's exactly what I did. A graduation gift that changed everything. After dinner, Uncle Rick handed me an envelope. Inside, a check for $50,000 and a business card for some guy named Mark at a tech company in Seattle. "Consider it a graduation gift," he said. "Mark's looking for fresh talent. If you want it, he'll give you an interview." I stared at the check. That was more money than I had ever seen in my life. "Uncle, I can't." "You can, and you will," he said firmly. "Look, I never had kids of my own. Let me do this for you. Take the money, take the opportunity, and get the hell away from people who don't appreciate you." I hugged him. Tried not to get emotional in the middle of a fancy restaurant. "Thank you." On the way back to my apartment, I made my decision. I was done with my family. I wasn't going to chase their approval anymore. That night, I took a picture of me and Uncle Rick at the restaurant, posted it on Instagram, and captioned it, "Huge thanks to the only person who showed up for my graduation. At least now I know who actually cares about me." Then, I turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear their excuses, their weak apologies. I was done, a fresh start, and leaving them behind for good. That night, Uncle Rick and I sat in my apartment, talking about the job opportunity in Seattle. It sounded perfect. A junior developer position at a fast-growing tech company. Good salary. A chance to move across the country and start over. "What about my lease? My stuff?" I asked. Uncle Rick just waved his hand. "Details. We'll figure it out. The real question is, do you want a fresh start or not?" I thought about Megan, about my parents, about how, no matter what I did, I would always be second place to Jenna. Nothing would ever change if I stayed. "Yeah," I said. "I want a fresh start." Right then and there, we called Mark, the guy from the tech company. Uncle Rick put him on speaker and introduced me. We talked for about 20 minutes about my projects, my experience, and what I was looking for in a job. At the end of the call, Mark said, "How soon can you fly out here for an in-person interview?" I looked at Uncle Rick, who gave me a thumbs up. "How about next week?" "Perfect. Rick, send me his resume, and I'll have HR set everything up." When we hung up, I felt this strange mix of excitement and nervousness. I was really doing this. Starting over. Completely. Uncle Rick leaned back, smirking. "You're doing the right thing, kid. Sometimes, you have to look out for yourself because no one else will." Walking away without looking back. The interview in Seattle went better than I ever could have imagined. I flew out a week later, on Uncle Rick's dime, because he refused to let me pay for my own ticket. The company put me up in a nice downtown hotel, and when I walked into the office, I knew this was where I was meant to be. It was one of those modern tech spaces, standing desks, free snacks, people walking around in hoodies instead of suits. Mark and I clicked instantly. What was supposed to be a 30-minute interview turned into a 2-hour conversation. At the end, he leaned back and said, "So, when can you start?" Just like that. I accepted on the spot. The crazy part? I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Jenna. And definitely not Megan. I quietly started packing up my apartment, donating most of my furniture to Goodwill. For an entire week, I kept my phone off. But the day before I left, I finally turned it back on to tie up loose ends. My phone exploded with notifications. 47 missed calls. 93 unread messages. Voicemails from my parents demanding to know where I was, why I wasn't answering, and how I could be so childish over one missed event. And Megan? Her messages were the worst. Please talk to me. I know I messed up. Your parents said it would just be an hour, but then everyone started drinking and I couldn't leave. Then, seriously, Ryan? You're ghosting me over this? I said I was sorry. And finally, I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk about this in person. Your neighbor said you're moving. Where are you going? Call me. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a short email to my landlord, breaking my lease. Keep the security deposit. Then, at 5 a.m., I packed up my car and started the drive to Seattle. 3 days on the road, cheap motels, and the entire time, I kept waiting to feel guilty, to feel something, but I didn't. For the first time in my life, I felt free. 6 months of silence, and a message that changed everything. Seattle was everything I hoped it would be. The company set me up in a temporary apartment while I looked for my own place. I found a small but nice apartment downtown, walking distance from work, and I threw myself into my job. Long hours, new challenges, a fresh start with people who knew nothing about my past. It was good. I still talked to Uncle Rick regularly, but as far as everyone else knew, I had vanished. I changed my number, deleted most of my social media. I didn't want to be found, but Megan kept trying. Emails, LinkedIn messages, even reaching out to my college friends. I blocked her on everything. And my parents? They called every day for the first few weeks. At first, I listened to some of their voicemails, just out of curiosity. This behavior is unacceptable, Ryan. We've always supported you, and this is how you repay us. You're breaking your father's heart. And my favorite, your sister misses you. She doesn't understand why you're punishing her for something that wasn't her fault. I deleted them all, and I didn't feel bad about it. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I was just living. The inheritance email and my final goodbye. 6 months went by. I got promoted, made friends at work, started going to a rock climbing gym. For the first time in my life, I was building something that was mine. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email from my dad. Subject: we need to talk. It's about your inheritance. I actually laughed when I read it. Inheritance? My parents weren't rich. Dad ran a small accounting firm. Mom was a part-time real estate agent. They had a nice house, took a vacation once a year. That was it. And even if they did have money, did they really think that would make me come crawling back? I replied with 2 words. Not interested. That's when the floodgates opened. My phone started blowing up again. Emails, texts, Mom begging me not to throw away my future. Dad saying I was being childish and ungrateful. It was all so fake. They had months to apologize, months to acknowledge how they hurt me. But instead, they tried to buy me back. Finally, I answered one of Dad's calls. What? Ryan, thank God. We've been so worried. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine. What do you want? Son, we need to discuss your future. Your mother and I have been thinking about our will, and let me stop you right there. I cut in. I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I'm doing just fine on my own. Silence. Then, so that's it? You're just cutting us out of your life forever. You cut yourselves out, I said. I'm just making it official. And then, I hung up, blocked their numbers, and I never looked back. The tables have turned, and I don't care. After I blocked my parents, I called Uncle Rick. They tried to threaten me with my inheritance. I told him, still laughing about the whole thing. He chuckled. Classic move. Your dad pulled that on me once, too, you know. Wait, seriously? Oh yeah. Back when I told him his accounting firm was outdated. He dangled our parents' summer cabin over my head like it was some grand prize. That's when I decided I'd make my own money so no one could ever use it to control me. That stuck with me because that's exactly what my parents were doing, trying to buy their way back into my life, trying to make me dance for scraps of validation, just like they did when I was a kid. But I wasn't a kid anymore. I had built my own life, and I didn't need them. Success is the best revenge. 2 years passed. I went from junior developer to team lead in record time. I led a major product launch that got real attention in the tech world. Even got featured in a couple of articles about rising stars in software development. Nothing huge, but enough that my name and face were out there. I bought a condo downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the Puget Sound. Started making real money. The kind where you don't check your bank account before going out to dinner. I made friends, went on weekend hiking trips, dated casually, met interesting people. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten child. I was just Ryan, and I was thriving. Uncle Rick visited often. We'd hit up the nicest restaurants in town, and every time he'd say the same thing. I'm proud of you, kid. You built something for yourself. No one could take that away. He was more of a father to me than my actual father ever was. Karma finally catches up to them. Then the economy tanked. Tech was fine, but other businesses struggled. And guess what? Dad's accounting firm collapsed. I only knew because Uncle Rick mentioned it over breakfast one day. Your dad lost a ton of clients. His firm might have to downsize. I just shrugged. Not my problem. I didn't feel happy about it. I didn't feel bad, either. Just nothing. Then, a month later, I got a LinkedIn message from my dad. Super formal. Ryan, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following your career with great interest. Very impressive work with the Streamline AI project. I was wondering if we could connect sometime to discuss potential collaboration opportunities. Hope to hear from you soon. I nearly spat out my coffee. Collaboration opportunities? That's code for I need money. I showed it to my coworker, Mike, over lunch. He nearly choked on his sandwich. Dude, is he serious? Oh, he's dead serious. So, what are you gonna do? I closed my laptop. Nothing. But the messages didn't stop there. Next, an email from my mom. Ryan, we're so proud of you. We always knew you'd do great things. Things have been tough for us lately, and we really miss you. We'd love to reconnect. And then, Jenna. She reached out on Instagram of all places. Hey, stranger. Long time no talk. Look, I know things are weird with us, but Mom and Dad are struggling. Dad's business is failing. They might lose the house. I know you're doing really well. Congrats, by the way. And I was wondering if maybe you could help them out? They're too proud to ask directly. Oh, so now they were too proud? They weren't too proud to ignore me my whole life. Or to skip my graduation. Or to treat me like I didn't matter. I didn't even open the messages. Just left them on read. The moment they realized they lost me. One Saturday morning, my doorman called up. Mr. Walker, there's a couple here to see you. They say they're your parents. My stomach tightened. I hadn't seen them in 2 years. I'm not expecting anyone. They're quite insistent, sir. The woman is getting upset. I sighed. Send them up. Might as well get it over with. When I opened the door, I barely recognized them. Dad looked old, gray hair, deep wrinkles. Mom was skinny in a way that wasn't healthy. They had this look in their eyes, like cornered animals. Mom reached for a hug. Ryan, sweetheart. I stepped back, kept the door half closed. How'd you find my address? Dad cleared his throat. Rick told us. Said it was time we talked. That pissed me off. Uncle Rick had always respected my boundaries. I made a mental note to call him later and ask what the hell. Mom tried to peek inside. Can we come in? It looks beautiful in there. I almost said no, but I figured, might as well hear what bullshit excuse they had this time. I stepped aside. They walked in, and I watched their faces as they saw my place for the first time. Huge windows. Expensive furniture. They visibly tensed. You've done really well, Dad said. His voice was weird, like he was both jealous and proud at the same time. What do you want? I didn't offer them a seat. They looked at each other. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We miss you, Ryan. It's been 2 years. Whose fault is that? Dad sighed. We know we screwed up. Missing your graduation was. It was never just about graduation, I snapped. It was my entire life. Being treated like I didn't matter. Mom stared at the floor. We understand that now. I crossed my arms. So what changed? Oh wait, was it the articles about me? My success? Because you didn't seem to care until I started making money. Dad's face went red. That's not fair. Oh, it's not? Then tell me, what exactly did you ever do for me, Dad? Name one time you put me first. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Nothing. Exactly. Mom wiped her eyes. We might lose the house. Jenna had to drop out of grad school because we can't afford it anymore. We don't have anywhere else to go. And there it was. Not an apology. Not regret. Just a bailout request. You thought I'd just write you a check? After everything. We're your parents, Dad said firmly. Family helps family. I actually laughed. Family helps family? Where was that attitude when I needed you? When you picked Jenna over me every single time for 20 years. Dad's jaw clenched. That's it? You're turning your back on us. I walked to the door. Opened it. No. You turned your back on me a long time ago. Now get out. They left. And I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Final goodbye. The next morning, I sent them an email. I'm not giving you money. Not because I don't have it, but because money won't fix what's broken. I've spent 2 years building a life without you, and I'm doing great. Don't contact me again. Then I hit send, and I was finally free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in next one.